Welcome to Demolition Worker. Today we are dismantling a massive steam locomotive from the last century that is completely beyond repair. This incredible machine once powered industrial progress, but now it sits abandoned, severely rusted, and slowly returning to the earth below. Before we begin the heavy demolition process, our specialized team conducts a thorough safety inspection of the massive metal structure today. We need to carefully identify which valuable mechanical parts can be safely preserved for future display in our local historical museum. The sheer size of this vintage locomotive is absolutely breathtaking, featuring thick iron plates that have endured decades of harsh weather. Look closely at these giant metal wheels, which once rolled proudly across thousands of miles of newly built continental railway tracks. Our first major task involves removing the rusted exterior panels to expose the complex internal mechanics of this beautiful old beast. The workers use specialized cutting torches to carefully slice through thick layers of oxidized iron, creating brilliant showers of orange sparks. Every single bolt on this train has been fused together by decades of rust, requiring extreme heat and immense physical force. We apply heavy industrial lubricants to the stubborn joints, hoping to loosen the massive steel bolts without damaging the surrounding metal. Using high-powered pneumatic impact wrenches, our crew slowly forces the ancient rusted fasteners to finally break their long historical grip. As the heavy side panels crash heavily onto the dirt, the fascinating inner workings of the steam boiler are finally revealed. The boiler was once the beating heart of this locomotive, generating immense pressure to drive the massive steel pistons forward continuously. We can see a complex network of beautiful copper pipes wrapping around the main pressure chamber like veins in a body. These valuable copper components are highly sought after by historical collectors, so our team must extract them with extreme professional care. Workers carefully disconnect the delicate brass fittings, ensuring that the fragile antique threads are not stripped during the delicate extraction process. We gently lift the shining copper tubes away from the dark, rusted iron, creating a stunning visual contrast of industrial materials. Each salvaged pipe is meticulously tagged and safely packed into protective wooden crates for its upcoming journey to the Railway Museum. Now we shift our focus to the massive driving rods connected directly to the enormous steel wheels of the steam locomotive. These solid steel beams weigh several hundred pounds each and require heavy lifting equipment to be safely detached from the chassis. A heavy industrial crane moves into position, extending its powerful boom directly over the rusted center of the ancient train engine. Strong steel cables are securely wrapped around the primary driving rod, preparing to support its massive weight during the final detachment. The mechanics carefully hammer out the giant retaining pins, allowing the heavy connecting rod to finally swing free from the wheel. The crane operator skillfully lifts the massive steel component high into the air, moving it safely away from the primary workspace. With the external driving mechanisms completely removed, we can finally access the heavily reinforced firebox located at the rear engine section. The firebox once contained roaring coal fires that reached incredible temperatures, leaving behind thick layers of hardened black soot and ash. Our crew uses heavy scrapers to clean away the toxic residue, revealing the thick thermal plating designed to withstand extreme heat. Dismantling the firebox requires precision plasma cutters, which slice through the hardened steel plates like a hot knife cutting through butter. Bright flashes of blue plasma light illuminate the dark interior cabin, casting long, dramatic shadows across the dusty demolition work site. Heavy chunks of the old firebox fall directly into the collection bins, destined to be melted down and recycled into solid steel. Next, we must tackle the enormous steam dome sitting proudly on top of the main cylindrical boiler of the vintage train. This iconic curved structure housed the main steam valves, controlling the immense pressure that gave the machine its incredible pulling power. Workers secure heavy safety harnesses before climbing onto the rounded roof of the locomotive to begin dismantling the iconic steam dome. The heavy brass whistle is carefully unbolted and removed first, preserving a beautiful piece of acoustic history for the museum exhibit. Removing the steam dome reveals the massive internal cavity of the boiler, showing the complex arrangement of internal heating tubes inside. These hundreds of steel tubes transferred heat from the firebox to the surrounding water, rapidly generating the vital pressurized steam power. Over the decades, these internal tubes have severely corroded, transforming into a fragile honeycomb of rusted metal that crumbles upon touch. We bring in a specialized hydraulic shear attachment to begin cutting away the weakened sections of the massive outer boiler shell. The powerful hydraulic jaws easily crush through the rusted iron plates, tearing away large sections of the historic locomotive with ease. The sound of tearing metal echoes loudly across the entire demolition yard, signaling the final destruction of this once mighty machine. As the boiler shell is peeled away, the immense scale of the internal engineering becomes truly apparent to our demolition crew. We discover a hidden compartment containing original manufacturer plates completely covered in thick grease but perfectly preserved under the metal shell. This incredible historical artifact is quickly cleaned and safely stored away, adding immense educational value to the upcoming museum display project. The demolition excavator continues its relentless work, systematically tearing down the remaining structural supports of the heavy steel boiler frame system. Massive clouds of dark brown rust and ancient dust billow into the sky as the heavy metal sections crash down violently. Our water suppression system sprays a fine mist over the wreckage, keeping the hazardous dust levels down and ensuring worker safety. The front section of the train features a massive heavy steel cowcatcher, designed to push dangerous obstacles off the railway tracks. This iconic triangular structure is surprisingly intact, so we decide to carefully detach it in one piece for historical preservation purposes. 4 workers use heavy oxyacetylene torches to simultaneously cut through the thick mounting brackets, holding the giant cowcatcher to the frame. The heavy steel structure drops heavily onto the wooden support beams, successfully separated from the main body of the old train. Now we face the most challenging part of the project, dismantling the massive solid steel undercarriage and the giant iron axles. These structural components were built to withstand incredible dynamic forces, making them incredibly difficult to cut apart with standard demolition tools. We deploy our largest industrial hydraulic breaker, delivering massive kinetic impacts to shatter the heavy cast iron suspension brackets into pieces. The ground literally shakes with every powerful strike of the hydraulic hammer, slowly breaking down the indestructible foundation of the locomotive. The massive leaf springs, thick enough to support tons of weight, are carefully torched and removed from the heavy suspension system. Once the suspension is removed, the giant steel wheels are finally isolated and ready to be lifted away from the chassis. Each wheel weighs over 2 tons, requiring careful coordination between the ground crew and the heavy crane operator for safe removal. The giant spoked wheels are lifted high into the bright sky, looking like massive industrial sculptures suspended gracefully in mid-air. We carefully place the historic wheels onto a heavy transport flatbed, ensuring they are securely strapped down for their long journey. With the wheels completely gone, only the massive central steel frame of the old steam engine remains resting on the ground. This solid steel backbone must be cut into smaller, manageable sections before it can be transported to the local recycling facility. Our team uses a massive industrial metal shear capable of slicing through solid steel beams as if they were fragile twigs. The powerful machine bites into the thick metal frame, producing a terrifying crunching sound as the heavy steel violently snaps apart. Sparks fly everywhere as the twisted metal is violently ripped apart, reducing the once proud locomotive to a pile of scrap. We carefully sort the massive pile of debris, separating the valuable recyclable steel from the useless rusted iron and degraded materials. Powerful industrial electromagnets are used to easily lift heavy loads of jagged scrap metal directly into the waiting transport dump trucks. The magnetic crane swings back and forth rapidly, efficiently clearing the large demolition zone of all remaining dangerous sharp metal fragments. Amidst the heavy destruction, we find a beautifully preserved brass pressure gauge buried deeply inside a pile of dark rusted debris. The glass is completely intact, and the delicate mechanical needle still rests exactly at zero, frozen perfectly in time forever today. It is small discoveries like this that make historical demolition work so incredibly rewarding and deeply fascinating for our entire crew. The driver cabin at the rear of the train is the final major section, waiting to be completely dismantled and removed. This small enclosed space was the operational command center where brave engineers spent countless hours steering this massive beast across countries. We carefully remove the wooden floorboards, which have completely rotted away after decades of being exposed to rain and harsh sunlight. The intricate array of operational levers and control valves are painstakingly unbolted, saving these important interactive elements for future museum visitors. Once the valuable controls are removed, the heavy excavator steps in to crush the thin metal walls of the driver cabin. The roof collapses inward with a loud metallic crash, folding the historic compartment into a compact square of twisted scrap metal. The site is now mostly cleared, leaving only small fragments of rusted metal scattered across the dark-stained dirt and gravel. Our ground crew walks the entire perimeter, using handheld magnetic sweepers to collect any stray bolts and sharp, dangerous metal shards. A heavy front-end loader scoops up the final pile of mixed debris, dumping it loudly into the last waiting truck. We take a moment to look at the empty space where the magnificent steam locomotive had rested for so many decades. It is always a slightly bittersweet feeling to completely erase such an incredible piece of human engineering and vital industrial history. However, we find great comfort in knowing that the most important components have been safely rescued for future generations to appreciate. The museum exhibit will feature the beautiful wheels, the shining copper pipes, and the intricate brass controls we carefully saved today. Children will soon be able to touch the cold steel and imagine the incredible roaring power of this classic steam engine. The rest of the heavy metal will be melted down and recycled, finding new life in modern construction and future machinery. This perfect cycle of destruction and rebirth is the true beautiful essence of our daily work in the heavy demolition industry. We pack up our heavy tools, secure the massive transport trucks, and prepare to finally leave the cleared demolition site behind. The sun begins to set beautifully over the industrial yard, casting a warm golden glow over the freshly cleared, empty ground. Thank you for joining us on this incredible historical journey, dismantling a true legend of the great classic railway transportation era. This is Demolition Worker, signing off for today. Remember to subscribe for more amazing heavy machinery teardowns. See you next time.